I'd like to turn to Representative Ted Lieu to give us a congressional perspective. Representative Lieu represents California's 33rd District. He's a former city council member of his hometown and a former state legislature. So he understands the imperatives and workings of local and state government, as we've been talking about. He's co-sponsored bipartisan legislation on this idea. And so Representative Lieu, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here, and love to hear your thoughts about the ideas that we've been discussing today.
Thank you so much, Tony. And let me, first of all, thank you and Max for your work in highlighting subnational diplomacy. I want to thank Brookings for having this wonderful event with so many distinguished speakers. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about my experience with subnational diplomacy, why I think this bill is important, and where it is right now. I was, as you mentioned, a former member of the Torrance City Council, and I remember we would always have exchanges with other cities. We had a sister city in Kashiwa, Japan. We would welcome chambers of commerce delegations from other countries. We also happen to have been the headquarters of Honda North America. So we had a fair amount of Japanese delegations come over. And then I remembered what ended up happening is as more and more of these exchanges would happen, all of a sudden a hotel was built that catered to folks from Japan. And then all of a sudden we started to get tourist groups from Japan that would stay at this hotel because they realized, oh, well, we could stay at Torrance for half the rate of staying at a more expensive city and still go to Disneyland. So there are lots of benefits for cities when you have more exchanges and more connections with foreign cities and foreign governments. And this is happening whether or not the federal government pays attention to it. Subnational diplomacy has been occurring. It's going to continue to occur. My view is we could ignore it at the federal level, or we can assist it. And it makes so much more sense to help it along. And this benefits both the federal government as well as local jurisdictions. I served previously on active duty in the military, and numbers matter. And what I mean by numbers is sheer numbers of personnel. So now, instead of having a State Department with a limited number of foreign service officers, you can now leverage that with their hundreds, potentially thousands of very energetic, smart local elected officials who are engaging with foreign states and foreign cities and foreign governments. And let's put everybody on the same page, or at least try to, so we're all rowing in the same direction. And that's a way to help the State Department leverage its own goals and what's accomplished with foreign countries. In addition, we know the State Department has a diversity problem. There is legislation right now, for example, to get a mid-career lateral program going at the State Department that's going to be more useful, more effective. Well, perhaps when the State Department is engaging with all these amazing mayors and members of their county supervisors and so on, maybe one of them will go, hey, the State Department looks sort of interesting. Maybe I'll do a lateral transfer and think about joining the Foreign Service. So that's another opportunity to expose people to the State Department. And in addition, the State Department is not going to be controlling these cities, but can provide guidance. And there could be cities, for example, that are less sophisticated than the city of LA, which is doing an amazing job with foreign countries and foreign delegations. But there could be a small city of, let's say, only 100,000 people who just want to try this for the first time. And now you've got the State Department that can offer resources and guidance on best practices and what to do and what not to do. In addition, the State Department can tell these cities what the experience is of other cities and other jurisdictions with these foreign governments. And it's been said earlier during this conference that, look, you're not going to have a city negotiate an arms control agreement with a foreign country. But what we do have happening, for example, is the state of California previously negotiating agreements on water technology with a foreign country. You've got local cities negotiating all sorts of different agreements with foreign cities or foreign delegations or foreign states. And so you do have a lot of agreements, in fact, that are happening at the subnational level. And it's good for the State Department to have more awareness of this, as well as the State Department to assist cities in trying to get this done. I also want to note that it is true. It does seem like we've all become much more partisan. But again, local cities are nonpartisan. When people run for elected positions in cities, they're not running as a Democrat or Republican. My service on the local city council was actually very nonpartisan. I happen to have been one of 2 Democrats on a 7-member council with 5 other Republicans, but partisan issues almost never came up. We were just dealing with issues of how do we help our local constituents. And there's no such thing, for example, as Republican water technology or Democratic water technology. So there are lots of ways for cities to engage with foreign countries and the people of the foreign countries to have all these exchanges, all this people-to-people contact that in the long run, I think benefits America, because I still believe that democracies are still the best form of government, and for the world to continue to see what America can do, especially at the local city level. And then I want to take a step back and just sort of explain, how do most people interact with government? Most folks, right, don't really interact with the President of the United States or with the Secretary of State. We're not dealing with high-level issues like arms control. Most folks don't engage in that. But many of them do, in fact, engage in businesses who might benefit from having either a foreign delegation come over or going to another country to see if you can invest in that country with your business. And it's sort of this people-to-people contact, I think, can be very valuable for this Office of Subnational Diplomacy to encourage. And we can get a lot of cities to now start thinking about it. Some of the big cities, Dallas and LA and others, again, are doing a fantastic job. They have the resources, they're sophisticated. They can certainly benefit from this Office of National Diplomacy. But when we're talking about a city of, let's say, 120,000 folks, they might not even have thought about this at all. And once we have this office set up, if we can get all of these cities to at least start thinking about engaging subnational diplomacy, I think that's another way not only to help the local city, but really to help America export a lot of our very good ideas to the globe and to receive input from the globe back to us. So with that, let me talk about where the bill is. Last term, I was pleased to have authored it on a bipartisan basis with South Carolina Republican Joe Wilson. We got it to pass the House. Unfortunately, the former administration didn't seem all that excited about the bill and really didn't want it. So the Republican-controlled Senate did not send it to the administration. This term, we made some technical changes because of the new administration. The bill is pretty much set to go. We're going to be introducing it in the next couple of weeks. Again, it will be bipartisan. And this time we have high hopes for getting it not only through the House, but also through the Senate. And hopefully we can get it signed into law. And anything that any of you can do to help that along would be greatly appreciated. Any contacts you may have with U.S. senators or the administration would be extremely helpful. And thank you again for highlighting this issue, and really appreciate you asking me to speak.
Well, thanks for having, thanks for spending some time and your thoughts with us today. And interesting, as you said, this kind of subnational diplomacy is happening. So we can either ignore it or we can assist it and benefit from it. So, so thanks very much for spending your time and your thoughts with us today. And that concludes our program.